Hi everyone, Sylvia here from Rock the Cradle, and we're waiting for Jenny B to come online. Today on episode 3 of our Doula Dialogues, we are going to be talking about postpartum and how to prepare for bringing baby home. And it's an exciting period, but it can be a very stressful period. And I think she's coming on right now. We're gonna try this. She says she's here, adding her on. Yeah, so we're going to be talking a lot about it. It is for many, and it's an important thing. I think I say in our classes that we prepare a lot for pregnancy and birth, but we don't prepare much for postpartum. Hey, Jenny.
Hello, how are you?
We'll see if this works. I'm all right. I will move over so now your head is not in the. So talking about postpartum, and it's such a. I know you and I have both experienced difficult postpartums with various children, and it's not an easy. It's not an easy time. I was on Instagram this morning and looking at a brand new mom's profile. She's got a 5-week-old, and she was feeling very dejected that her to-do list and her Instagram account were not being, taken care of as well as she wanted to. Olia, postpartum sucks. I know she had such a hard time with postpartum. Hi, Olia. So Jenny, talk to us a little bit about your postpartum.
Well, I had two, because I had 2 kids. The first time was fine. The first time I don't remember it being, it went swimmingly. I mean, I had pretty big difficulties with breastfeeding. We had tongue tie. I wasn't prepared in that regard, so that's something I think we'll talk about in a little while. The second time, however, I ended up diagnosed with a postpartum depression. So that was a lot less of a smooth thing. I had 2 little ones at home. They were tandem nursing. I wasn't sleeping. You know how that can go. So, I mean, for sometimes postpartum depression happens the first time and not the second. Sometimes it happens both. And for me, it was postpartum depression anxiety the second time. So that was less fun. And I think I probably could have been better prepared. And I'm on a bit of a mission these days to help people prepare for that period.
Well, you're on a mission. Yeah, this is what you're getting into more and more now, and I'm so happy about that. Jenny B, among her, I mean, a lot of us on here, I see Amanda, I see Olia and Heather, and a lot of us
it's
know
so
that
fun.
you do
Amy,
prenatal.
Amanda, Sally. I like this Facebook Live thing.
So many of them. You know that Jenny does prenatal and postnatal yoga, but she is also doing a lot of postpartum work. And I just think, Jenny, you just are the epitome of what it takes to mother the mother. You are so nurturing. You know so much about the body and what you've gone through as well with your own kids. I wasn't clinically diagnosed with postpartum, but I will say that with my first, I did not sleep well until he was about a year old. And I remember looking in the mirror and having circles, right down to here, and not sleeping all night. People were telling me not to co-sleep, which is not a topic we're going to talk too much about today. It can be perhaps another time. But you're right, preparing for that support and what is it? I think people are like the mom this morning on Instagram. She just said, "Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting it to be so hard."
I try now not to scare people, but I was hearing that like in the time that I've been working with you, Sylvia, with Rock the Cradle, and having postpartum clients, I kept hearing that same thing, and I was thinking, well, like, where as a birth educator, I'm not trying to take everybody's, but I was thinking, where am I going wrong that these people are coming through classes with me and then still not prepared for how hard it's going to be? So not scaring people, but I'm kind of trying to turn up up the ante on the messaging of, yeah, you don't know how hard it's going to be, so be as prepared as you can, and then maybe it'll be a pleasant surprise and it won't be so hard. But not walking
right.
but expecting it to be a breeze, because it's going to be probably one of the hardest things you've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah, with my girls, I'll say, and anyone else, Amanda, I know you have 3 kids. Jot us a line, like how was it compared to your first and your second? Heather, same thing. Olia only has 1 still, and hopefully you may have another one, or not hopefully, whatever you decide is good. But I know that my second and third were much different. Amanda says, I wasn't expecting the second and third time to be so hard. The third time would completely rocked her life.
You
so
think
see,
you're pro at it, right? You think that, okay, I've done it.
You think you know what you're doing.
And it's different, just like every pregnancy is different. Every postpartum period is different too.
Yeah. And it's true. I found with a toddler that I had 3 kids under 4, I didn't find necessarily the postpartum. I was sleeping better, but I just lacked hands. I lacked the time. I wasn't, in the first pregnancy I found, or first afterbirth, I just had more time for that baby. This time, yeah, it's true. Tired plays a big role in there. Today we wanted to talk and touch upon a few things, how to prepare for coming home with baby, which includes so we're going to talk about food, we're going to talk about breastfeeding, and we're going to talk about your village, creating that support. Jenny was very adamant that we talk food. I think we both love food, and so I'm going to let Jenny talk to us about food. What would you like? You know, I think that was your number 1 advice.
I love
people
so much. I love food. Food is so important in the postpartum period, and I think that, myself included, and then a lot of the students and clients that I have, we somehow think that we're going to give birth and then stand up and be cooking for ourselves and for our partner, like regular, and and you can't, like, you just can't. It's impressive how much time it takes to just mom in the first couple. There's no time to cook gourmet meals, and I mean, sometimes it feels like there's not even time to order pizza or cook cook the simplest of things. On top of that, though, it's a time where you need to be eating very nutritious food. You can't just eat junk. For the majority of women who are going to be breastfeeding, you need to be properly nourishing yourself with real food, with ideally home cooked food. So that you don't end up ordering out or eating out. And I mean, even going to the restaurant is not a practical thing to do on a regular basis. When you have a new baby, you're at home. So yeah, I don't remember exactly what I did, but I do now watch a lot of moms go through this scramble of, oh my God, what am I going to do now? So yeah, did you want me to talk a little bit about some advice that I have for how to prepare? Food rocks, Heather.
Yeah.
Food does.
Yeah, before you get there, there's in our prenatal classes, I do talk about like an anecdote that happened. I remember my husband coming home probably the first week after, even maybe the second week after, and he's like, "What's for dinner?" And I started bawling, and I said, I wanted to prepare spaghetti sauce, but at 10 o'clock I peeled, I diced the onions, and then Tristan needed to feed, and then at noon I did the peppers, and then at 2 o'clock I did the mushrooms, and at 4 o'clock I finally put the ground beef in there, but nothing, like, it was the end of the day and nothing had really been done. He was such a high needs baby, and I really had high expectations of doing spaghetti sauce and wasn't able to. And he was like, "That's fine, honey. I'll do something quick, and yeah." So what are your takes on preparing food ahead of time? I know we always say pack the freezer.
That is one thing, and I know that people don't necessarily have a deep freezer. We live in the city and have small apartments. I did, however, get a small deep freezer at that point on the advice of a friend, and I was really happy I did it. And I ended up making simple, packing up some bean burritos that I could just throw at that time in the microwave, batch cooking some stuff, even though it's not necessarily the ideal way that you eat in regular life. For some people it is, and it works really well. But like, Ziploc baggies full of stews and soups and really nourishing stuff that's easy to heat up, because your idea for spaghetti sauce is wild. Like, otherwise it becomes the realistic way to eat spaghetti sauce in the first couple of days and weeks of postpartum is like a jar of Prego in the thing, and you're lucky if you.
I know.
But you were trying to actually, I don't know what you were thinking.
I don't know what I was thinking. JP's on the line here, and he says, I don't remember this, but I remember it. It impacted me so much.
You don't remember asking your partner where dinner was. Dinner should have been in his hands.
Yeah, that's great. One of the best gifts that my friends gave me as a shower gift were gift certificates for catering services.
Yeah.
And we actually use them now at Rock the Cradle. When you buy 2 services or more, you get $100 of food pre-made from a caterer, bon c'est bon, delivered to your door. And I just thought, like, that was amazing.
And it's real food. Again, it's not ordering from the restaurant, which, I mean, you have to do what you have to do, but you end up saving money and having more nutritious food if you're a little bit more prepared. Olya says, I ate bananas for the first few days.
Yeah. Bananas. And how many bananas a day is toxic?
But bananas are a good example.
Did he find the answer? Did he find the answer? Oh, yeah.
Good potassium.
Especially when you're, sorry, Jenny, just cut you off. And Olya, I know, has dietary restrictions. So that's even more important to prep ahead of time, I would think.
But here's
right?
the
because
thing.
If you
thank you for saying that, because something that I've come across is these moms who are on this good advice of batch cooking stuff, and then they end up with a baby, which happens a lot, more and more, if they're breastfeeding, who is intolerant to dairy or beef or this kind of stuff. So that's maybe an additional stress, but also not a crazy idea to think when meal preparing, if you can minimize the amount of very common problem foods for baby, maybe not putting them in right away. So stuff that's a little bit more neutral, that you don't have to then, you know, get rid of your whole bunch of stuff because it's not good for baby. I mean, it's just that it's so common that babies are having, you know, reflux, etc., all these diagnoses again and again.
A lot of them.
It's coming up again and again. So maybe not beef, maybe not this, maybe not that, dairy, but
Hi, Leah. Thanks for joining. Yes, so preparing food ahead of time. I often also asked for, instead of people bring onesies and little toys that I had so much of, to bring me a lasagna, you know, that, or whatever I want. You know, bring me real food as a gift rather than clothes, especially for the second and third baby where I had so much stuff already. That, or do a load of laundry. You know, that was my conditions of coming in the house.
I think of how many people the first time around offered food, and for some stupid reason I refused it. It was like this block. No, I'm okay, I got it. And I think refusing, like I keep coming back to this theme in my life now, even though the kids are big, you know, not refusing help. If somebody from their heart is offering, yes, of course, yes, you can come over, yes, you can do this, you know, accepting help. It's so hard for most women to do. And it's Heather said, yes, bring food and then leave because I'm tired. So that's sometimes the best thing that our friends can do. I had this really wonderful friend, Elizabeth, who just left soup and stew on the stoop because she was a mom, and what it was like. She just left it there, and I got it, and I could heat it up, and I didn't have to pretend I was in a good mood and make small chat when I just needed to eat and sleep. So yes, sometimes company is amazing too, but yeah, that's a really good point, Heather. Just bring food and leave. Catering services are
so lots of great advice there on food. Let's go to the second topic that we were I think a lot of our students and clients are worried about this, and it's breastfeeding and how that can impact your postpartum. I think that can really impact your postpartum. Breastfeeding is not always as easy, even though it should be, as you know, it's one of the most natural things we think of. It's not always easy for people, and lining up your help beforehand, I think that's the main points. And there's lots of resources, right, Jenny? I mean, who do you suggest? What do you suggest people do ahead of time?
First line. So you and I were both for quite a while Nourrissource support mom. Yeah. Nourrissource is my favorite resource. It's free. It's run through the CLSCs. And you can get hooked up with, they have a marraine and filule, so like a godmother, your breastfeeding godmother person that you can get hooked up with even in pregnancy. It's a really, really good idea, so that you don't have to then, you know, make all of those phone calls after. The reason I like, a couple of reasons, but one of the main reasons I like Nourrissource I guess I'll say better than other similar resources, is that your marraine, hey, Sophie Crépeau, she was my marraine of marraine d'allaitement. She was, so I really like Nourrissource, because you have your person. She's your godmother, she's your marraine, so she has your file, she has all your information. Every time you phone her. You don't phone a switchboard and just get whoever happens to be on the, be working at that time or volunteering at that time. And that was a huge, huge help for me. I had a wonderful marraine d'allaitement the first time, and you know, so many of us get into these this work because of our good or bad experiences with this stuff. So yeah, Nourrissource is invaluable. They also have weigh-ins. They have alt d'allaitement at the CLSCs in various places around Montreal, and I don't know about Quebec as well. Is it just in Montreal, or it's provincial?
Yeah, they do that. They do that everywhere. At least in Quebec, I'm not sure for those out of Quebec what they do, but you can get baby weighed. They can check your latch.
It's like you hang out, and there's other people breastfeeding going through.
You meet other moms. You get out of the house and you meet some other moms with a common goal of, you know, breastfeeding your babies. It's a good. So
if there's a concern of whether the baby's gaining weight, if they have good diapers, whatever it is. So it's a peer support, it's phone support mostly, unless you're going to the alt d'allaitement. It's different than an international board certified lactation consultant, in that they're not coming over and touching you and manipulating you. It's not manipulating, you know what I mean? It's really over the phone, and it's a troubleshooting process, and it's just a nice first line, because you don't always need to go see a private lactation consultant. Or to the hospital or to the pediatrician or whatever. Some of the stuff can very easily be solved by just chatting with that person and troubleshooting. Oh, try this, try that. And yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful resource, Nourrissource. So that's the first thing. And then obviously as a postpartum doula, and again, you and I have both gone through the Nourrissource training. We are not lactation consultants, but I don't even know how many years in a row that I breastfed, like seven consecutive years of breastfeeding or something, including nursing, and I feel like I've seen it and felt it all. Whether it's
I think with postpartum, as postpartum doulas, part of our job is to go in and help moms with any breastfeeding issues. And like you said, most of us have breastfed for a long time and have had issues. I've had blocked ducts, I've had other issues as well. And we can really tell. Sometimes it's just guidance in positions, especially when you're starting out in those first few weeks. Maybe you've never tried side lying. I think I'm a big fan of side lying, but people are a little bit worried about that, or just even changing it up. So we have a lot of experience. If we feel that it goes past our scope, you know, and we can't really help you out, well, then we'll be the first to give you some recommendations of really good lactation consultants. Which is so important.
So in terms of having, like you were talking about who to phone, who to have, you know, numbers in your back pocket, have Nourrissource. Like I recommend getting hooked up with that person, as just in case, because you never know. And then you know, these interesting things that people are saying keep popping up, and it's so hard to concentrate.
I know, it's great. I love it. Yeah.
And Amanda says that they do something similar in Ontario.
In Ontario.
What was I saying? Yeah. So, but to also have the number of a good lactation consultant, but an IBCLC, International Board Certified Lactation Consultant.
Yeah.
To have that person's number, because you get a lot of breastfeeding specialists. Oh yeah, the breastfeeding specialist at the hospital, or the nurse at the hospital. Not to poo-poo nurses. Sometimes nurses don't have the best advice when it comes to breastfeeding. So they're coming in there and manhandling, I don't know if that's the right word, I don't want to say, but helping to the best of their ability, and it doesn't always end up translating as actual help. So it's nice to have International Board Certified Lactation Consultants. That's their job. They're not, well, some of them happen to be nurses because it's a lot of school.
Yeah.
But they're not doctors. They're not there in the capacity of stuff that's not breastfeeding, and they're focused. That's their focus, is breastfeeding, and they're wonderful. There's some wonderful breastfeeding specialists here in Montreal.
Don says manhandling is right. They really do get in there. Hello, Lily. Lily is calling from Europe. My
Nice.
gosh. Mwah.
Nice. Did you, yeah,
She took
I
care
guess
of our,
Dawn.
she took care of our children. Yeah, in daycare. Oh, lovely. Yeah, the nurses can be very, very hands-on. And I tell you, like, use the support when you have your baby and when you're in the hospital for a couple of days. But please let them know if you don't want to be touched. That's a whole other topic, informed consent. But you can say no. Yeah, so there are lots of resources. You know, we talked getting that resource number beforehand, getting the La Leche League. You can even go to La Leche League meetings when you're pregnant, and just checking that out. And, you know, it's really, you know, sometimes just saying, you know, sharing stories with other moms and saying, oh, yeah, this is what happened to me. You know, I had a blocked duct. Stick your breast in a bowl of warm water and compress, you know, and then I'm like, oh, okay. And that really helped. And having those resources. Um, our pediatricians, unfortunately, are not all well versed in breastfeeding, unfortunately. And I'm talking a lot of them don't know much about breastfeeding. And often they'll want you to stop breastfeeding really early on, particularly if you're having problems or if you're not sleeping. I had one of the moms in our mom groups. She phoned the other day and she has a 15-month-old, and her doctor told her because they're not sleeping that they should stop breastfeeding. And she thought it, and told her her baby was too old to be breastfeeding at that point. And so she felt really guilty. She felt not normal. And in talking to me, I was like, well, it really depends on your circles. Jenny, in your circle, I would imagine a lot of people breastfed like you did until, I don't know how old your kids were. They were a little older. They were old.
But no, I did have that. I was fortunate to have that entourage who was the. You need to be with people who are aligned. You know, who you're aligned with, who you have the same priorities, and that helps to feel normal, because there's no right way to do it. There's no right amount of time to do this or that. But it's really, really nice to have people who have the same beliefs as you, so you feel normal, because we're all normal. It's just nice to feel normal.
Yeah. Jenny and I, we were talking yesterday. I mean, we do have very similar philosophies, but the question came up about pumping and having formula on hand. I think on the formula aspect, we were saying, if you want to breastfeed, should we have a bit of formula on hand? And what did you say about, what's your take on that?
No, booby trap. It's a booby trap, and you do get sent, and I'm not, I supplemented with my daughter, to be clear. I'm not anti-formula. The older I get and the more experience I have supporting women in postpartum, the more I realize how I was very, very hard on myself. And there are a lot of people who are just so much pressure to never even have a little drop of formula in their baby's mouth. And that's no longer where I come from in my mind. I'm not judgmental with women the way now that I'm in when I didn't have kids, because of course you have ideals and then you have real life. But I do think that if you do want to exclusively breastfeed, you don't want to have the formula samples in your house. They're a booby trap, and you will end up using them. Your supply can go down, and then it becomes this constant struggle to bring it back up. However, baby does need to eat, and if you are in a situation where you feel like, oh, baby is starving, and that's different than in the hospital. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. At a certain point, baby needs to be eating a certain amount of milk, and that's not a bottle this big of formula in the hospital. That's too early. Their stomachs aren't big enough. But I mean, you can go to the pharmacy and get, in the middle of the night, formula if you do end up needing to have it. You don't need to have it in the cupboard. So no, I don't think that there's a point in stocking up on formula just in case. I think it will end up being a very slippery slope to.
Well, where people, I find moms will get worried is that maybe that 3-day growth spurt, or even that 3-week growth spurt, whereas the big one, and they start feeling that they don't have much milk, and then they're calling me and saying, oh, I need some formula, baby's really, like, you know, at nighttime there we don't have much milk as much as we did in the morning. And then they're like, should I feed the formula? Especially in even going further, like when we just get home and our milk hasn't even come in yet, and the nurse comes to see you and says, oh, you're not, the baby hasn't been gaining weight yet. I suggest maybe getting some formula. And I'm like, wait till your milk comes in. It solves so many issues, particularly, but when we have it there, we're tempted.
It's always that panic of, oh, baby's losing weight. Baby is always going to lose weight. Baby's going to lose water weight. And it becomes a panic in the hospital. And then that's when you see still even in some of the hospitals in Montreal, of babies being given formula because they're making
it happens.
Weight loss, and there was never, ever a reason to freak out. But
I think where we diverged, and that's Amanda's brought the topic back up, is where I mentioned pumping. I think we're just slightly on different sides. Should I buy a pump beforehand, or should I wait till afterwards? Amanda says save the $500 and don't buy a pump unless it's determined that you really, really need it after baby. I think Jenny shares that, and she'll talk about that. But my take on it is that even as exclusively breastfed children, I did pump after a couple of weeks, every day for about 10 minutes or every 2 or 3 days, to have a stash of milk, frozen milk in my freezer in case baby needed it. And when my partner and mom started, when we started introducing some bottles. Now, I know not all exclusively breastfed babies get bottles. I was a pretty adamant about that, particularly with my second and third. My first never took a bottle because I waited until 4 months, and by that time he really didn't want one, but I felt stuck. So maybe some moms don't feel stuck, but I felt really stuck that I couldn't go to the spa with my friends for 6 hours that day because the baby wouldn't take up the milk with dad, right? So I was feeling a little bit of resentment. So with my second and third, I was like, no, I'm pumping, and I'm doing that quite quickly.
Yeah, I think that's wise, and that's wisdom you learned the second time. Yeah, I agree with Amanda in not buying that double Medela pump, which I actually ended up having because a good friend of mine had it, and she sold it to me for very cheap. And I know you're not supposed to use breast pumps, but I replaced the pump part, and I felt fine about it. What was I going to say? But to add that, especially when we're talking about the big industrial size $500 pumps, to add that to the list of things that we absolutely need becomes ridiculous. It's just so expensive, and I feel like if I could put $500 towards a doula or toward a breast pump, I would get a doula. And sometimes those are the choices that people are having to make. At the end of the day, if you do end up needing a breast pump, you can rent them. You can borrow them from the pharmacies, and you don't necessarily have to get the full two flange one.
No,
if you're using it.
No, it's not. It's not $500. Let's just be, as a pro pumper, I will say you can get some cheaper models. I suggest, as a childbirth educator, a single electric. I'm not a fan of manual just because of all of the, you want it to go fast and quick, 10 minutes, one side is done. Of course, if you're exclusively breastfed, you will need that more expensive double one because you want it to be efficient and fast. But you can get some cheaper models that are not, or like you did. I also had one given, Medela swing, lent to me by a friend, and I, replaced all of the parts that were touching me and baby, and felt fine with that as well. So there are other, I know it's an investment though.
I think it's something that eventually, like, for sure, we're recommending as childbirth educators not to, if you're wanting to breastfeed exclusively, not to give a bottle for the first, environ 6 weeks, so that breastfeeding is established and your supply is established. So I would say in that way, not necessarily putting it, putting it on the registry is probably, if you're going to do that route, smarter than buying it for yourself. But to not feel like you have to have it in that beginning. And I just, in general, my approach, like I say to my kids, like, we're not an au cas où family. We're not a just in case. If we face a problem, we'll deal with the problem in that moment instead of anticipating that all these things are going to go wrong. That's just how I tend to live my life. So I would then, go and maybe get the pump then at that point if I needed it, or if I was going back to work early and I needed to be pumping lots of milk. But I don't think just because I think one of the beautiful things about breastfeeding is that it's free. There's lots of beautiful things about breastfeeding, but that it's free, and that we don't have to invest in bottles and special things to sterilize stuff. It's just there. With that said, I was adamant attachment parent. I did it by the book, the way Dr. Sears said it needed to be done, bordering on continuum concept. Have you seen that movie Away We Go with Maggie Jill?
No.
Get everybody who's watching this, find that movie with Maggie Gyllenhaal, Away We Go. She's like the epitome exaggeration of the continuum concept. Their whole room is one big bed, and I have lots of friends who this is their life, and I love it, and it was my life for a long time too. The whole floor is just one big mattress, and everybody's co-sleeping together. Anyway, what is my point? My point is I was kind of a caricature of somebody who was obsessed with doing things the attachment parenting way, and I didn't have the recommended calibrated balance in there at all, and I burnt myself right out because I gave everything I had to the babies. I refused to give them a bottle. I refused. Took everything on myself. So I don't know, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the point, I think the message I get from that is being balanced, right? And I think if I look at my first with my son, I felt that imbalance because I felt it was just me feeding that baby all the time, and I really wanted to go out, and I felt kind of resentful. So that's not good either. In my second and third, where I did feed bottles, of my pumped milk, I felt much freer. For me, that was such a good, and your story about getting sick, that's not a good one either, right? We need to find that balance.
I had in my head that a good mom didn't use bottles. I had that in my head.
Not
so
true.
Messed up.
Not
and
true.
I know it now, but I just went to like such an extreme with my ideals, and there was no reason for it. My kids would have been fine if they had a bottle of my milk, and they never.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to have that permission, right? But yeah. Hi, hi Jennifer. So nice to have you guys on. Have you girls on. Hope those babies are doing well. They're so cute. So cute. I miss you. Miss you all. We also we're diving in now to one of our last points about physical healing and what can we prepare before birth. A lot of people know that this is one of my favorite topics, right? My favorite word is perineum. I think I need it embroidered on a shirt or something. But preparing, what can we prepare, Jenny, before birth? Before we give birth, for the afterwards. And we're talking perineum here.
Yeah, well, there's the, there's the pelvic floor exercises that I'm here between classes at a yoga studio. I just taught prenatal, and now I'm going to teach postnatal in a moment. There's, the pelvic floor exercises. I don't know if that's necessarily what we'll get into talking about today. I like to...
Not today, no.
I like to help people prepare with actual things that they can use if there's been tearing. With actual products that are very easy to make or to buy, to find at the pharmacy. Is that the kind of stuff that we want to talk about? So even,
well, exactly. I wanted to talk about, Jenny, you do this lovely workshop once in a while, and most of people on here have already given babies, but maybe a second baby or your friends, where Jenny prepares these postpartum herbal kits, where there's soaks, right? You soak these, and then do you put these directly on your perineum?
You can. So I usually recommend that people use one of those, I call it a tea bag, but it's not something that you would drink. There's ingredients here that you might not want to drink. With that said, everything that I've chosen in the recipe that I give people in workshops and the ones that I make or give away, there's nothing harmful for babies. So if you were to use the tea in a bath, and you also had baby in the bath with you, it would be fine. It wouldn't be a problem. But I would steep like in something like this.
You put this inside
that warm tea into a sitz bath. So some people don't like sitz baths. I really think that they're a wonderful idea. They're these round, they're usually pink, these round tubs like donuts, but they're contained underneath. You put them on the toilet seat. You put your tea. Other stuff that you can put in if you don't have one of those tea bags or you're not into herbs. It can be Epsom salts. It can be there's
witch hazel.
Witch hazel and Epsom salts are two of the best things that you can have. And it seems like salt, but it's cleansing, and the astringent propriety of witch hazel. I smell that stuff, and it takes me right back to some very, very nice moments in postpartum.
I was a big fan of the sitz bath. I loved it for all three babies.
You said you are, or you're not?
I am a total fan of the sitz bath. I loved it. It gave me 10-minute breaks 3 or 4 times a day where I just go and sit and soak my perineum and my bottom, and those really helped. My clients who come back to me maybe a week after birth and saying, I'm really tight, you know, I feel the stitching is, you know, it's not, it doesn't feel that great. And I'm like, are you doing your sitz baths like we talked in class? Or and they're like, oh no, you know how busy I am with a new baby. I said, I know, but you need to take the time for self-care. Can't, you know, no one's going to give it to you. So you need to take it. And once they do the sitz baths, much better. We also have other products. We have a spray, which is our colleague Yvonne has made these with witch hazel as well and other essential oils. Or hydrosols is a cooling bottom
mist.
And
that is nice one. That so is like a nice one for the people who aren't gonna. I remember sitting on the sitz bath nursing because that's sometimes what you have to do. But that spray, the spray is amazing to be able to use in lieu.
Yeah, we put these in the fridge, so it's a cooling one. While the sitz bath will be warm, this can be very cooling as well with witch hazel. We also have another one that Yvonne made, Love Your Tummy Soothing Cesarean Mist. So once the cesarean scar is healed, just to get rid of some of the itchiness and, you know, massaging your belly, getting in touch with your belly after birth as well. So these are also, and there are other companies that do these as well. But we have our own line. And padsicles, are you a fan of those padsicles?
I don't know. I just find them messy. I'm a fan of the like baby washcloths in the freezer or freezing your.
Has anyone used padsicles? Anyone online? Have you had success with those? Just write in the message, or have you had them?
Those tea bags, though, that you were showing, I had some that were made before I used to make them by Earth Mama Angel Baby. They're really, really nice, super affordable, and you could put them just like those. You could soak them. You can use them as a tea, and then you could put them in on top of your pad after. And yeah, it's a little bit cheap, but I really like to be able to get a double use set of them. So you can use the tea for your sitz bath or for your bath, and then you can also use that to put it in the pad. But it feels good. It's impressive how awesome cold feels.
Yeah, I would go from cold to hot, from cold to hot. Yeah, Heather just says no, just sitz baths and bottom spray. Yeah, and I think that is something that's very easily, you know, purchased before having your baby and going to the hospital. Those are things you don't want to have to go out.
You even put your always pads in the freezer, and then you just have a cold pad, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Honey too, raw honey is a wonderful way to heal if there's any tearing. It's antibacterial.
What do you do with that?
Raw honey.
Raw honey on your perineum, frozen?
No, just raw honey, but not like weird squeezy stuff out of the honey bear, like a good raw, not pasteurized honey. Otherwise, there's not much point. Okay. Yeah.
I'm learning something new. Put some honey on my vag. There you go. One last point before we wrap up. We'll talk a lot about creating that village, getting the help. We talked, Jenny, you mentioned it at the beginning. Saying yes to being helped is not a weakness. I can't repeat that enough. It is not a weakness. There are other cultures, other countries that the help that the mothers receive is so amazing. We're trying to bring that back. And there are resources, but not feeling that we have to do this alone is so important. And I feel a lot of us feel like you even said, you know, I felt I needed to do this or prove to myself. Is it a?
Yeah, I don't know. It's backwards here. It's just.
Yeah, like it's hard, but it is not a weakness.
And baby, it shouldn't be one parent and one child. I think two parents and one child is not even enough. I was at a student the other day. No. She was a prenatal yoga student. Her child is 9 weeks old now, and she called me to come over. And she has her mom in town, and she had her mother-in-law in town. Her partner was away. She's kind of entourée. She has people around her, but she still felt alone because it's just not. It's never enough. Just the constant company of having other people, and I think in a lot of cases, other women around, the aunts, the grandmas, all of this stuff. We don't nurture the village at all. We don't have one.
And some women are very lucky that they do. And I think Em is saying here, you know, your mommy group was so important on my journey, and it was so lovely to have them. and several of the moms here, Jennifer as well, finding your village or creating one. And I mean, I know with my second, I had one mom from cardio stroller class. She would just come and knock on my door at any time of day and say, hey, let's go for a walk, you know, and she really saved me because I wasn't the type maybe to go out. I just had so much to do around the house already that I was like, yeah, I do need to get out. And it was such a saving grace for me. So very similar, finding those mommy groups.
Yeah. What I do, and actually what you might, babies might start to come in the door here in a moment, but for me, that village, that sangha, that community in yoga is really important, and I like to create this atmosphere. I hope it seems to be going well for moms. For me, it was the same case. I didn't know a lot of people when I was pregnant, and then I had prenatal yoga, and then I had mom and baby yoga, and I could come back and see those same people that I was with when I was in yoga, and they do it here, and it ends up being a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's lovely. We can talk a lot about this. I think in other episodes we're going to be delving a little bit more into the village, but thanks everyone for joining. What a great conversation. We had only planned for 20 minutes. I think we went really over, but so much really good information, Jenny. Jenny and I both are with Rock the Cradle. We are both trained birth doulas, postpartum doulas. Jenny is into yoga. You can find her at Nada, Equilibrium. I don't want to miss any other places, Jenny. If you have friends, send them our way so we can give them some help. It's we're always there to help, no matter what. With any questions, you are not alone. We are not alone, and we need the village. So thank you, everybody. Thanks,
that was
Jenny.
Fun. There were lots of people here.
Your first Facebook Live.
That was good. There's a lot to talk about.
Super good. So see everyone next week. And if you ever want to see a repeat of these or send your friends, we have a YouTube channel, which I'm going to put in the comments later. And thanks for everyone for coming. Merci beaucoup. Bye. Have a great class.
Bye.
Bye.